Okay, so back for part two, and I just wanted to add one more thing before we got jumped into the match about Proft, because I was thinking how will the Proft defenders be thinking when I'm hating on it, and yeah, I wanted to add that if like I was saying that like if you resolve Treasure Cruise, you're likely to win, and if you resolve Treasure Cruise, that's your main game plan, and things are going well for you, and if you don't, then it's worse for you. So then somebody might make the argument that, well, Proft will help you in games you don't resolve Cruise, because, like, let's say your opponent discards your Cruise or Graveyard hates it, then you could play Proft and win like that. So those are some arguments for Proft. But what I was saying overall, like, I think if you could make a perfect list, you wouldn't want it and whatever. Maybe on the play it's better, because I have more tempo control in the play. But we'll go into the replay, of game two. So here it is against PT Bond. Oh, I guess it already starts here. So this. I guess I need to reload this. This game's kind of interesting because yeah, we'll see what happens here. It might be a painful game in some ways.
Wait, is this the? I don't think this is the correct game because you don't have your sideboard cards in this deck.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
okay.
I did the wrong one.
Here we go.
So this is actually kind of an interesting hand, but yeah. What do you think? This is an obvious keep to yourself, or do you think
No,
this hand's kind of dicey?
I would think about it for like 10 seconds or something. I mean, I'm not thrilled about it, but they're like a Thoughtseize deck. I think you probably have to keep, but I'm not thrilled about it.
Yeah, it's not the best. It's not Demi Lich's best look here. Because obviously, when you look at this hand, you have three lands. That's fine. That's about a good amount of lands to have. You have two spells that are pretty good, especially because if you assume they have four FOMO, then Annul could actually be kind of decent at getting you tempo because you're on the draw. Consider is probably the best one of the best spells in your deck. Probably the best one of the best spells in your deck. But then you have these two cards that you can't really cast and they're pretty slow. And again, three lands is good, but it's on the higher end of lands. And they are two steam vents, which are a little bit painful. But anyway, so yeah, it wasn't a great hand, but I'm like, I have three lands and two pretty good spells, and like I can still like cast the Demolich and whatever. And so I was like, yeah, I'll just keep it. I thought it was like a flat, like basically like I have a null and consider, and it's a little bit slow, but I draw a card every turn, and it has a decent starting point. Like, do you think
Yeah,
you'd also keep it, or
yeah. I would keep. I would pause and
yeah,
maybe keep for a bit.
yeah? It's not a great hand. Like, I think you could argue to mulligan it, but it has like it's okay.
Yeah.
Then
I'm sure if
let me just make
we
sure.
are going top tier, probably not.
Sorry, what did he
Um,
say?
I'm not sure if we play a Shockland here. Now that we drew Axe, maybe we do. Yeah, I
Yeah, it's
probably.
kind of complicated. To be honest, in the game, I feel like it would be. I mean, I guess we have the time because it's a replay to break it down. But I was going to say that, like in the game, it might not be worth thinking about that much. But
Mhm.
um, I mean, the reason, like the downside of shocking, if you got like, what's the easiest downside of shocking? Well, what if there was a world where you somehow are able to play all the shock lands tapped anyway? Like, let's say I just draw lands every turn, because I'm probably not going to axe on turn two or whatever. So there could be a world where I go like island, consider. The next turn I go tap steam vents, then I go tap steam vents. So then you're like, okay, what's the upside to playing a steam vents? And it's like, is
On turn two. That's basically why I want to play it. Like I'm just gonna let a fear of missing out here resolve. If they play like a blood tithe, then I'm gonna axe that. Yeah,
you would axe a blood ties on this turn?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow, I would never do
Maybe
that.
we could play a draw step, I guess, but I probably want to do it before taking 3 damage.
Wow, that's interesting. I feel like I would like never axe one here. Well, the game's gonna be actually kind of interesting because it involves that. I mean, yeah, I would. I mean, there's a. I mean, you can make an argument that you have a null, but there's a the reason I would axe here is if they play a card like Graveyard Trespasser. I guess it's not that common, but if they play a card like Go Blank or Ashiok, now I don't really love putting my Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard that early. Uh, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I mean, maybe you're not concerned about them playing Ashiok because it's not very common or whatever.
Yeah,
But
I was not really thinking of Ashiok, admittedly.
or even Hearst, because like let's say they play turn three Fable and then you annul it, and then you can't get Phoenix back. Like you go cast Demilich and then they just Hearst your Phoenix or whatever, or they go like Duress and then play Hearst. Also, I was feeling like I kind of was interested in annulling the thing, but maybe I should try and hold it more. I think it's reasonable to hold it. But anyway, I didn't think there was a world I would axe a Harvester because I didn't really want to. I wanted to do that on the turn I would get back my Phoenix. I thought, and But I didn't. Maybe you do care about the damage. I mean, that's reasonable.
I don't know if I would annul a fear of missing out before we drew the axe, but now that we drew the axe, I definitely wouldn't.
Well, I don't really want a lightning axe of fear of missing out. Are you saying because it gives you more tempo?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think it's kind of close. I would be kind of tempted to because, but
I think nobody really has graveyard trespassers these days, right?
no,
Like
yeah.
nobody.
I mean, but like there are other situations where they could exile your Phoenix. But yeah,
Mm.
I mean, you don't have an answer to Shieldred and they have Demolich. I mean, you could make an argument that you're so scared of Annex that you'd want to hold an ult for
I
it.
think Shieldred is the biggest factor, more so than the Phoenix being exiled. Like that definitely gives me
I mean, I
pause.
think the Phoenix being exiled is a really big deal because I think their deck's pretty bad. I think Phoenix is really strong against them. I think they're pretty bad at dealing with Arclight Phoenix, and that like if you give them opportunities to exile it from the graveyard, it'll make the game much harder for you.
Hmm.
Uh, like for example, they could go duress. They could go like I mean, they didn't duress turn one, but they have a few. They could go they have like two draw steps to find a discard spell, and then if they have Hearse in hand, they could go turn three, discard Hearse, and that's pretty bad for you if you axe it. I don't know. Also, I guess it's different because I have like a bunch of Prismaris in my deck. I mean, yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking about the three damage from Harvester that much, so maybe I should have been more aware of that, and that tempt me to axe it more. But even if they play Harvester, like, why would I need to axe it? Like, I mean, I could axe it because maybe I draw Picklock and then I consider, but it's like pretty you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
thought I thought that yeah, I didn't think I would want to consider because like I could literally just draw Fiery Impulse. Like I could bottom a card, draw Fiery Impulse, and impulse it.
I
Um,
mean, like I think we're very likely to shock the next turn. Like that's a play pattern that comes up a lot, right? Like if you know you're going to shock on a future turn, then you should just shock now, so you give away less info the following turn. Um,
yeah, kind of.
what did they play here? Oh, Blood Tide. I
Yeah,
see.
they play Blood Ties, and I think this game's gonna be interesting, and I might punt it, so we'll see. So they play Blood Ties. I see Sleight of Hand. I keep it, and this is a interesting. So I this is interesting. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I guess you just don't care about the damage, but I feel like we're probably going to take like 6 damage from this Blood Tide or something. I mean,
yeah. I think I might have because looking back, I feel like I should play a tap land and pass. That would be
oh,
well,
here. Oh,
yeah.
just set up for Phoenix. I see.
Well, so what else would you? I mean, I don't want to really Lightning Axe at this turn. I don't want to, and I don't. Yeah, I kind of want to hold my like I have Demi-Lich and Phoenix.
Now that we have not used that accent, I think that line makes the most sense.
I
Yeah.
mean, would you? I don't really want a sleight of hand on this turn. I feel like, especially because it's like
No,
bad against discard.
yeah, if you could, well, if you had some untapped lands here, then you're probably supposed to. But when you also get to like save 2 life with this line, then I think it
Yeah,
makes
and I have
sense.
another one, and I don't really. Yeah, I kind of want to just play tap lands, and like yeah, and I don't mind taking three damage. Yeah, so this is now looking back. I think this was a mistake. I don't know. Look at this. This is panic. This is the winning in such an important match, and I was just casting sleight of hands like a freaking maniac.
I mean,
Well,
I don't think it's crazy, right? Like, I think there's a strong prior to, oh, just use your mana, right? So, like, it's very understandable why you made that play, but
yeah, well, I understand the reason why I made the play was probably because probably I was thinking, oh, I don't value. I was thinking, oh, I'll just find more spells to return the Phoenix, and I want to
Mhm,
like get my spells going.
mhm.
Probably what I was thinking, but I wasn't factoring the fact that I could cast a null because like part of this is what's awkward about because if I cast sleight of hand, then I kind of need to shock myself because I want to hold up a null. So that's what I feel is part of what makes it good to play a tap land is that way I don't because like basically casting sleight of hand kind of forces me to spend 2 mana this turn, and because I have Phoenix, you see what I mean? Like that's the awkward part of playing sleight of hand. It forces me to shock myself, and
Mhm.
and then like let's say they don't play they don't play a card, then like maybe I need to consider. And now I've used my consider and my slight, and now I have Phoenix, and it'll be harder to get back Phoenix. Obviously, part of what's weird about it is you're like, oh well, you can find more spells, but that's actually not a given because I have a lot of expensive spells, like a lot of non one drop spells that I want to hit. Like I want to hit Artist
Why I
Talent, Prismari Command. Sorry, what?
This is why I wanted to shock because when we start taking this line, like we could have gone shock turn one, play a tapped shock land here turn two, and then like it's just the same outcome as like it costs us the same amount of life, but we give less information to our opponent and we have the option of axing. because once you start taking this line, it's pretty telegraphed that you have like a Pierce, right? I mean, I don't know if people are
Not at all. I mean, not. I don't think it's telegraphs very much at all. I mean, I don't know what your information lines are on about or so on. I mean, if you're 100% to if you're 100% to shock, then sure. I don't think it's necessarily 100% to shock. I don't think it's telegraphing very much. I mean, Phoenix has a lot of one mana instants it could play. It could be Fiery Impulse. It could be Opt. Obviously, if I sleight of hand main. But anyway, I feel like there's a more core thing here that's actually going on here because in the game I actually remember I was thinking I was kind of biased to be like because it's actually so here's the thing about Phoenix is that like when a misconception about the Phoenix deck is people will believe I need to get Phoenix and play on turn 3 right and they'll play the game in a way to maximize that and that's kind of a bad way to play the deck. So in this situation, I was like, I can literally like here. I'm like, I can play Phoenix on turn 3, but if I do that, it's less mana efficient. So I'm like, I don't want to be trapped by thinking that I need to return Phoenix. So I'll cast my spells more liberally. But actually, I think it's very important to return Phoenix on turn 3 in the hand because of the makeup of the hand. Because I have a Demolich. So I mean, it's like imagine if Demolich was a second Phoenix, right? That means that if I return Phoenix on turn 3, I can go turn 3, return Phoenix, and then turn 4 I can play Demolich, which is kind of important for the makeup of my hand and to use the cards in my hand. And like I said, like it's not a given that I can easily return Phoenix later because I have a lot of cards like Prismari Command and Artist Talent and Picklock that are clunkier. So looking back, like basically, I think one of the core questions here is like how, because like you're like when you're thinking about how much should I fire off these cantrips, you're thinking how much do I care about setting up a turn 3 Phoenix, right? And I think that playing a turn 3 Phoenix is actually pretty important with this hand. That's kind of what I guess I'm saying.
Yeah.
Which wasn't obvious in the game because in the game I'm so used to being like noobs who want to play turn 3 Phoenix. I'm going to show that I don't, I'm going to be intellectual and not do turn 3 Phoenix, which was complete nonsense. So I sleight, and actually this was very interesting, and I remember the card, and this was very interesting. So I sleight of hand, and I see Picklock Prankster, and I'm pretty sure, and an Opt, I think. So that's actually very interesting there. Do you think it's obvious for you which one you would take, or?
I don't think it's obvious, but my instinct, which like I would probably trust at this point, is the Picklock.
Yeah, so this was very interesting because abstractly, Picklock's way better card than Opt in the deck. But because of my hand, I actually do kind of value having a 1 mana spell. Because again, it goes back to Phoenix. The question is, how important is it to return Phoenix on turn 3? I do feel it's actually pretty important in this hand. Because if you, again, because Demolich is a card I can't play until turn 4. But I actually remember part of what was trapping me was related to Demolich. I'm like, I can't play I was thinking, I want to set it up so that I can play Demolich for 0 mana and return Phoenix on turn 4. So I remember thinking, I could Picklock. I could go like this turn Annul, next turn Picklock, and then on like turn 4, I could go like Consider, Axe, 1-drop, 1-drop, and then I can play Demolich plus Phoenix. But actually, that's quite hard to set up. So I was kind of, that could go wrong pretty easily. And yeah, you could be like, okay, Picklock is 2 mana, but it's like digs me deeper, like it gives me more card selection, opts 1 mana. But yeah, I feel like playing my Phoenix on turn 3 is actually pretty important in this hand because I don't really have that much tools. Because I feel like, I think it's kind of important in this hand, basically.
Like my main feeling about this hand, like the play patterns with this hand still, is just that if we had axed this blood tithe, then we'd be under less pressure to return the Phoenix, and then we can play more flexibly from that.
Well, I don't think I'm under pressure by the Harvester because I'm not trying to block with the Phoenix. I'm trying to actually attack with the Phoenix. I actually feel like we have to be aggressive here because I don't have a lot of good long-term answers to them having, if they play turn 3 Fable and I annul it and then they play Unholy, like I feel like I don't have a lot of card advantage going. Like the only, I mean, I guess now I do, but okay, like
I mean,
I feel like the cards, I have 2 cards in my hand that just give me tempo, and they're going to lose in the long game. Like, Phoenix is going to have problem. Like, I want to get it on board because it doesn't help me answer on their big threats. And I have 2 cards in my hand that are not geared at playing a long game very, very well right now. And I just want to get them in play to get value from them. That's what I'm saying.
interesting.
And I feel like I'm the aggressor because these cards are going to give me a lot of being on the front foot. And I'm going to be able to, so I'm not worried about my life total. I'm not worried about outgrinding them. I'm worried that I have a Phoenix in hand, and because I have a Phoenix in hand, it's going to make me be able to have less control over their threats in a longer game. Because, for example, if they play Fable and I null it, I don't have an answer to Annex because the cards in my hand are Phoenix. So I want to get the Phoenix down and start attacking them because
I mean, I guess my macro level feeling is that like we are because of this annul, we're pretty well set up to not get run over. Like if we just commit to taking 9 damage off this blood type harvester and not killing it, then we can hold axe for shieldred, and then what are we losing to? Right? Like we can
well,
play pretty
yeah.
defensively too, I think, still, despite the Demulich.
Why do you say? Well, first of all, by taking the Harvester hit, you're taking one hit for 3 damage. Because if you Lightning Axe it on turn 3, you're literally just take one hit before you Lightning Axe it, right?
Yeah,
Because look,
I'm saying we could like never kill it. I'm saying we could take like 9 or 12 damage from this blood type harvester and just make sure that we don't die to a shieldred, and then we have the enchantment answer. So they need like I don't know multiple things, and for us to not find another annul.
what do you mean? I mean, they could just have two. They could play Fable. I annul it. Now I don't have my annul anymore.
Well, yeah, but then they're relatively unlikely to have two fables.
Well, they could have Unholy Annex.
Yeah, I mean, I still think they're relatively unlikely to have. I mean, we could do the math on that.
How are they? Do you think they're relatively unlikely to have Fable and Annex in their hand?
To have
I don't know. I think
Fable,
this is too abstract. I'm doing very face up analysis. I'm not trying to be like, oh, they're unlikely to have 2 inch. Like, I don't think you can be like, oh, I have a null, so I'm just gonna. Well, basically, like, I'll just keep it simple so things are not too abstract. The reason I didn't want to axe Harvester on turn 1 is because there's because number one, I usually don't like to put Phoenix in my graveyard that aggressively against these kind of decks because it exposes it to cards like Curse and Ashiok, and I and Go Blank, and and also because another reason not to do it on turn 1 is that means if I draw Prismari Command, I can just Prismari Command the Harvester, and then I'm able to hold my axe for a Shieldred. Because by the time I untap on turn 3, I'm going to see like 6 more cards,
yeah.
and I could just find a Prismari, and if my opponent doesn't play a fit, like then I could go like Prismari this, make a treasure, and I'll Fable or whatever, or something
Well,
like that. Or
you're not committed. You're not committed to liking action when you shock. The shock decision there has other
well,
properties
I
that
think it's
don't.
not worth. Yeah, I mean, well, it's not about committed or not. It's like, is there any world where I would axe the harvester? And if the answer is no, then I don't think I would shock myself. If you think the answer is yes, it's not about being committed or not. It's just, is there any world? That's the question to ask. Like, before I pass, I can already make the decision. Is there any world I'm gonna axe the harvester? And in my mind, I was never gonna axe the harvester.
Where we would end up wanting to axe the harvester is if on turn 3, your turn 3 is discard spell plus
No, but that's
second.
irrelevant. Well, let's just hold on for that's irrelevant to the turn 1 decision because the turn 1 decision is do I play Island or Steam Vents, right? And you say the reason to play Steam Vents is that you could axe the Harvester, but if you're literally never going to axe the Harvester, then there's no reason to play the Steam Vents. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Then the fact that you don't like when you shock on turn 2, that is giving away more information.
Yeah, I just think that's completely irrelevant. Like, what information am I get? Like, I don't know. Like, what information am I giving them by shocking them on turn 2? I think it is giving them like literally zero information. I have so many instants in my deck. Like, I have so many instants. I have like 10 plus instants for 1 mana. That it's giving them the information I could have an instant. I mean, there's a trade off. I mean, sure, if but I also said a situation where I would just play like Steam Vents tapped on this turn, for example. Like even I even said, I mean, yes, it's true that if you're saying you could give them some information, but I'm saying there's a possible world where I play Steam Vents tapped because I even said this turn that I would be tempted to play. I said that if I could play this turn again, I would be tempted to play Steam Vents tap pass, right? Was a null up, and then next turn I could draw Spire Bluff Canal, and then there's maybe just a world where I just don't shock myself and I save 2 life.
What I want to do is I want to shock on turn 1, not shock on turn 2, and this way we still have red mana up on turn 2 if something happens like discard spell plus second creature.
Well, I was saying that I'm pretty sure this turn out. I personally wanted to go play Steam Vents tap pass was a null. Do you disagree with that line?
No, I agree with that line, but I want to have red mana up here in case they go discard spell plus second blood type harvester.
Well, okay. Well, if you agree with, let's say I play turn 1 Island, right?
I
Okay.
sure.
Oh, so you're saying that you want to play a second Steam Vents tapped and then have a Steam
Yes.
Vents untapped.
Yes.
Well, I Okay, if they play Thoughtseize Harvester, are you lightning axing a Harvester? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I would not. If they okay, they start the turn by casting Thoughtseize. Are you going to respond to Thoughtseize by lightning axing the Harvester?
I think so, but it's
Yeah,
close.
that seems like literally that seems like insane to me. I mean, so you pass with Steam Vents up. Like let's just say pretend the this is a sleight of hand. Okay,
Yeah.
there. Okay, if you play a tap, if you played a tap land, if you played a tap land,
No, right. We wouldn't axe if they lead on Thoughtseize. Yeah. So
so it's
yeah,
if
I
you
guess.
played an untap land. So uh, I mean, okay, so if you believed that you wanted to, if you believe that if they cast a discard spell, you want to axe the harvester, but then,
No, no, no. I take it back. You can't lightning axe if they go
I mean,
Thoughtseize.
if you have an untap land, then at least you have a null up for Hearst. But obviously, if you play tap land, it's awkward for reasons. But also, there's other trade offs when you're if you do it untap. Like what I'm saying is that you could conceive of a world where you want to like you could say it's conceivable that you want a lightning axe in response to a discard, but in that world you need a mana up. And by having to need that mana up, you're making trade-offs where you're kind of dedicating yourself to paying 4 life now, where there's another world where you pay 0 life. Anyway, and then it's anyway.
One
Yeah, I mean,
downside
what?
that I will say is that it's hard to analyze all of this in game, and like so yes, you're paying the 2 life up front, but then you're minimizing the chance that like you screw yourself somehow. So like one situation that could happen is like you drop both fiery impulses and you want to fiery impulse 2 creatures or something. I mean, some fringe stuff like that. I don't know if that
I mean, I
example
don't
makes
know
sense.
what situation. I mean, I can just kill cast the fire impulse. I mean, you're like, yeah, I was. You can't think of a million things. I was doing a top-down analysis. It was turn one, and I was thinking that it was conceivable that I would play both Steam Vents tapped. And then I thought, okay, is there a reason not to shock myself? And I
I
thought I
mean, what
wouldn't.
does conceivable mean? I guess I feel like we're like 90% plus to shock at least one of them.
Yeah, well, I could say the worst, like basically the worst case situation for me. The games that are going poorly for me, I'm more likely to play the Steam Vents tapped. That's what I'm saying. So I'm getting more equity in the games. Like if I'm drawing more lands, I'm more likely to play Steam Vents tapped. So I get more equity in the situations where the game's going bad for me, basically, by playing
Yeah.
Island on turn one.
No, that's true.
And that was my and again like I wasn't and then I was just thinking that like yeah in my head which might have been I might have been too biased but I was like I don't really want a lightning axe until turn three probably anyway so I don't really need 3 mana until turn three. That was kind of what I was thinking, which could be right or wrong. Anyway, so I sleight of hand and I regret. Yeah, I remember I basically roped here. I mean, I didn't rope out, but I was like the rope. Like I was tanking. Oh, do I take off just pick luck? And I was thinking about the pros and cons. I was thinking, well, because yeah, intuitively, Picklelock's a way better card than Opt, and I'm like, okay, but why is it better? Oh, because like, but also in my gut, I felt like Opt would be the better thing, and I felt like the reason why is because yeah, like it was going back to like I really do want to get this Phoenix back on turn three because my hand is like super airy. Like I don't have a Treasure Cruise yet, so I'm literally just spinning my wheels, and like if I don't put the Phoenix in play on turn three, I'm kind of like my hand is not like using the cards in itself to do anything because that's literally the only thing my hand does right now is it puts Phoenix and Demi Lich in play, and I'm like just literally not using my cards and I'm not doing anything. And so
Okay,
anyway,
you so many more looks at treasure cruise. I guess this is like the part where I really start to lose you. I don't feel strongly about the other stuff, but I guess I don't fully get the like don't have the feeling that oh we have to Arclight Phoenix on turn three. Like it seems just fine not to, especially if you get a pick lock. You're gonna have a lot of other ways to use your mana, most likely.
I think it's important too, and I can break into why, and I also realize why I made a mistake because this is actually what I was thinking. I was trying to think how important was it, and I thought, oh, and I got baited by Demilich. I didn't even understand how Demilich. It was confusing me because I thought I will. I thought what I can do. This was my plan. Is like this turn I'll pass next, and then I thought next turn I can play Picklock, and then on turn four, like I said, I can go turn four, play Demilich, return Phoenix. But there's problems with that line because first of all, I'm taking 3 more damage. Second of all, I'm not guaranteed
Right.
necessarily to find 4 1 drops because I'm missing a land and I'm missing 2 1 drops. Anyway, the reason why, but to go back to why do I think it's important to return Phoenix on turn three? I okay, uh, let me think. I mean, there's a few reasons I think it's important. One reason I think it's important is relates to what I was saying about lightning axe. If I lightning axe the harvester, I really want to be able to get my Phoenix back because if I leave it in my graveyard, it's exposed to graveyard hate. And I think once my Phoenix is in play, it's very good against them. Like they have to like torch the tower it basically. So which I'm very yeah. which means they don't have a good way to deal with it. Really, like it's. I would
Maybe
not.
maybe
Yep.
this is another disconnect. I guess I don't necessarily value Phoenix as much. Like I think a lot of the good stuff they do trumps Phoenix. Like if they stick a Shieldred, that beats Phoenix. If they
Yeah.
like stick stick a Fable, I mean that's more complicated. But if they stick an Annex, that also mostly beats Phoenix. So like
Yeah, I
I don't know.
disagree strongly. I think Phoenix in play is obviously you can make some situations where you say Shielded beats anything. If there's Shielded in play, it just beats anything
Yeah,
practically, unless you literally kill them or if your life total's high enough that you can deal with it. What I'm saying is different. I'm saying the card Arclight Phoenix, once it's in play, it's good against them because they can't really remove it. I have to remove Shielded already. I have to. You know what I mean? I think basically what I'm saying is that Phoenix in play, I think, is pretty good against them. So I really value not having it exposed in the graveyard because they have a lot of graveyard hate, like Hearse, Go Blank, whatever, Ashiok, mostly Hearse these days. And it kind of relates to the fact I said up front. Yeah, basically what I'm saying is it goes back to I don't really like having Phoenixes around in my graveyard against these Rakdos decks because I feel like once they're in play, it's pretty hard for them because it makes it easier to fight over Shieldred because if you have Phoenix in play, your Phoenix is very good at blocking like almost all their creatures, so you can get a big advantage from that. Anyway, that was kind of a tangent, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so
yeah.
I
I might be underrating how much graveyard hate they have. I felt like they have less graveyard hate these days, but that might not be totally true.
well again, it's also thinking what are the situations that are bad for you. Like, I just think if you have Phoenix in play, it makes the game. I didn't exposing like why would I
Well, you
expose
got
my
the
Phoenix to
proc,
Arclight?
so there's a lot less upside in having the Phoenix in play. I think like if I had props in my deck, I would definitely.
Yeah, I disagree
Yeah,
because I think they play a lot of creatures that can attack into Phoenix. Their Fable token dies to Phoenix. Their future Harvesters die to Phoenix. Like most, you can literally chump. They can play the 6/6 demon, and you can literally just chump it with Phoenix, like, and then you just bring it back. Like,
yeah, but if a Phoenix is playing a defensive role, then it mostly goes back to okay, well, how much graveyard hate is
yeah,
there?
but then that's in the future state of the game where if they tried to play the hearse, you could have Prismari'd it unless they were holding the hearse until after you block. But then I could have drawn another annul because I've drawn a bunch of cards at that point or whatever. And anyway, basically what I'm saying is very simple. Is that what I'm saying is very simple. I think the Rakdos decks have a hard time dealing with the card Arclight Phoenix. Their main way to deal with Arclight Phoenix is graveyard hate, like Hearse. If you put a Phoenix in your graveyard, you're just letting them. You're leaving it vulnerable, and I think Phoenix in
If
play
you
is
like
very
a
good against
very
them.
top level view like that, you can also say, okay, well, Treasure Cruise is extremely premium against Rakdos, so we should maximize our ability to find Treasure Cruise, which Picklock does more than the cantrip.
Yeah, but it has a lot of trade-offs because if I take Picklock, it's messing up it means that I can't get Phoenix, and it's not even giving me that much more looks. It's giving me first of all, it costs more mana, so that means that it can interfere with the fact that if I draw Artist Talent or another Picklock, it's giving me like two more looks, which is not a lot, which is not that significantly more looks. I also like my graveyard's already pretty big. Part of why Picklock's good is it fuels your graveyard, but my graveyard's already I'm already going to have 7 cards for Treasure Cruise when I find it. And part of why I value Phoenix so much on turn 3 here is because I have Demi-Lich in hand. So that means I can go turn 3 Phoenix, turn 4 Demi-Lich. If I don't get Phoenix in play, then my Demi-Lich is awkward because like when am I going to cast Demi-Lich? Like do I cast Demi-Lich on turn 4 and I don't get Phoenix back? So anyway, uh, uh, part of why I think it's really important to get Phoenix in play is because I have this Demi-Lich. It's like imagine if I had the second Phoenix. Just pretend the Demi-Lich is a second Phoenix. If I had a second Phoenix in play, do you think it would be more valuable that I get my Phoenix in play as quickly as possible? Because then my curve is turn 3 play Phoenix, turn 4 play Phoenix. You see what I'm saying?
Wait, say that again? What? Like,
Okay, pretend Demi-Lich was a second Phoenix. Then
Yeah.
isn't it obvious that you would put more value on returning a Phoenix on turn 3?
Um, yes, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, so that's just what I'm saying. I'm saying Demi-Lich is basically functioning as a second Phoenix in this hand.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially if you think of the way the curve plays out. Because think about what my turn 4 is going to be. I have these like 4 drops, and like let's say I spend the turn casting Demi-Lich. Well, then what happens with what's happening with my Phoenix? Now it's like I'm not getting it until turn 5, and then like when am I casting my Lightning Axe? So I think there's a lot of reasons why playing turn 3 Phoenix is important here, and basically because of the curve, and it plays into what's good about my hand. Because actually my hand will be good at tempoing them because I play Phoenix, then their life starts going down. It pressures their life, but then I play Demi-Lich, and then the Demi-Lich they have to kill the Demi-Lich, so that means they can't kill my Phoenix because the Demi-Lich is more important to kill. Like it's literally a must kill unless they have Hearse or something. And then because I don't have a good answer to Annex in a long game, I do value like you're the one freaking out about shocking on turn 2. Like I do value having the Phoenix in play and they're taking 3 damage a turn, and the only way to remove it is torch the tower. And if they torch the tower, they use a mana, so then they can't develop as much, and blah blah blah. Anyway, so basically I value playing Phoenix on turn 3 highly, but obviously
Yeah.
I don't do that
There's
in
a
this
lot of
game.
ways to play like these first 3 turns. I think it's hard to.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
saying it's on the context.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm saying it's on the context too, because I was literally saying how like I was biased against returning turn 3 Phoenix because I was like, oh, that's I don't want to. That's something that's easy to overrate. It's easy to overrate wanting to turn 3 Phoenix. But anyway, so
Right.
they play that. I annul it. I think that's reasonable. I draw a land, so now I don't. Yeah, I could try and consider to try and return Phoenix, but since I have pick lock, I'm just gonna pick lock past. I think that's probably pretty straightforward. I don't know if you disagree. Seems kind of makes a ton of sense. I think it's probably pretty obvious to just pass with
What's
pick
the
lock.
alternative? I guess I don't know if there's.
Yeah, I mean it would be like consider, and then you could like potentially return a Phoenix, but I think it's pretty obvious to pick lock here because
I think we should just pass. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty obvious. So they arrest me, and I think I let it resolve because I thought that if they direct, well, actually, I'm not sure what okay, this is interesting. Actually, yeah, I guess it's kind of interesting.
I would probably let it resolve. I
Uh,
think. I mean, the alternatives are okay. Axe or consider. I mean, I don't think I want to consider. I mean, you
no,
could
definitely
maybe
don't
consider
consider. Yeah,
axing because the Phoenix is going to be stranded in our hand otherwise.
yeah, that would basically be the argument to axe. Is that like if I don't axe, then the Phoenix is stranded. But to be fair, you could literally just cast the Phoenix, and also we're gonna get so many looks to his pick lock that we're actually kind of the consider is actually kind of valuable for us because it gives us 2 more looks at a treasure cruise basically, and it gives us two more looks at like a Prismari command, a Fiery Impulse, and blah blah blah, and also like we can consider plus Demi Lich on the same turn, and also yeah, I didn't want to I didn't want to reduce my storm count, so they duress, they take it, and also because like I could hit like a spell like an annul now, so I pick lock and I hit a Prismari, and that was it. The only thing I hit was a Prismari, so I had to take. Or actually, wait, what happened? So I pick lock. I'm trying to see what I hit. 1 second. La la la. Okay, so stack Fable. So pick lock goes on the stack. Nice. Okay, I hit a second sleight of hand. Yeah, that's all I hit. I didn't have a choice. I just hit a second sleight of hand, so I instantly took it. And I consider on end step here because I don't. Yeah, this is this is where things get interesting. Like, but do you agree with that play? Like, I can't return the Phoenix anyway. I'm kind of looking for like for example, if I hit a pick lock, my mana efficiency matters, so it's probably pretty
What's the
straightforward.
reason not to? I would definitely consider
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I'm not
So it's
sure.
pretty obvious.
Okay.
So I think let me see if I mill a card. I think I just see Prismari and keep it, and I think that makes sense here.
I agree.
So I untap. Oh yeah, they resolve a Fable, so that's what's happening. And you can see I was in such a good spot, and now things are kind of spiraling. And I think, yeah, that's interesting to know. I mean, I guess because if I returned Phoenix, this whole sequence couldn't have happened. It wouldn't have gone badly because I would have just returned my Phoenix, and then they would have to cast a duress when I have a Phoenix in play. It would be way worse for them. And now I have
I
this
mean,
Phoenix in my
I
hand.
do also think it's interesting to note that at this point, we've taken 6 damage from this Blood Tithe, right? Like, so, like, I don't think it's crazy to try to shock it early. I'm still not totally convinced on that, but I mean, maybe we can ignore
Yeah.
that.
Well, I was saying for the turn 3, like I could have tried to set up like part of what happened is I played pick lock and pass in turn 3, whereas if I kept the opt, I would have gone lightning axe, consider opt.
Mhm.
And then yeah, you have to keep in mind shielded a bit, but again, I have 3 axes in my deck, so and I have Prismari, Fiery Impulses, more answers, and
Where are we? I imagine that
this is
we're
my main
Demi-Lich,
phase.
probably.
What were you saying?
I imagine that we're gonna Demi-Lich here.
Well, you don't want to cast Prismari command?
Not really. I mean, it's not obvious to me. I just haven't. I'm not sure how good Resolve Demi-Lich is. I guess
Well,
I'm not
it gets cheaper. Like you don't want to pay that much mana for it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. So we can go Sleight of Hand, and like especially if we hit another cantrip or spell after that, then playing Demi-Lich gets more
Yeah.
appealing. And maybe if
Well,
we don't, we can use Mari Command.
Well, although discarding Demi-Lich to hand size is discarding Demi-Lich can be pretty good because we can literally just cast it from the graveyard as if it's in our hand, basically. I don't know if you know it's.
So, yeah, so going Prismari loot is also quite good. But then you get like totally wrecked by the go blank that we were kind of afraid
Yeah.
of.
Well, they mostly play more. Well, I can. Yeah, it's kind of complicated the sequencing of it. But I think yeah, I was deciding between do I want a Prismari or Sleight of Hand first. I didn't think I wanted Demi-Lich because then if they have a removal, it's just horrible for me. Like I'm literally at 12 life.
To be
I'm
clear,
literally
when I
just
said Demi-Lich, I meant like sleight of hand into Demi-Lich. I didn't
well,
mean
yeah. Start with Sleight of Hand. Yeah. Well, because there's a world. Okay, do I start with Prismari? What's happening? No. Okay, so I cast Sleight of Hand. Yeah, because the thing about Prismari is it's kind of weird because I have a lot of modes that are good. The loot's good, make a both loot and make a treasure are good, and I'm obviously shocking. So then, like, yeah, so I Sleight of Hand because I'm like, if I hit a Fiery Impulse, then I could loot and then
yeah,
make
like
a
if we hit
treasure.
a fiery impulse or a treasure cruise here, then like we would want to just cast that and then Demi-Lich.
Yeah. But anyway, I think I hit 2 lands, so I think I shock, and this is weird. What's happening? Why am I looting main phase?
We should let them resolve their Fable loot, right?
Yeah,
We're doing
I don't know why. I don't think there was any reason to do this. I should have probably just passed. I probably was
we just
getting
gain
roped.
pressure. You said you were roping on a previous turn. Yeah.
Yeah, I was probably like roping at this point, but I should have obviously just passed. There's like no reason to do this main phase, and I discard like Jwari and Phoenix, which I think is reasonable. You could discard Demi-Lich, but I wanted to hedge a little bit for them having like a hearse. Yeah, I kind of punted this game. This is funny. So they loot away like a Fable, I
I,
think.
I, I think I would discard Demi-Lich. So yeah, I probably would discard Demi-Lich.
Well, what would you keep? What are you keeping? Like the Jwari disruption?
I guess there's not that much value in that. Mm.
And also,
Yeah.
you have to exile. It's not like completely free to cast it from your graveyard. You have to exile 4 instant or sorceries. So it's
I
not
mean,
like
that seems fine. You can still or do you not have enough to cruise and cast it? 1, 2, 3. I think you have enough.
well, I do, but what I'm saying is that I just valued like what am I discarding? What do I hold a Jwari when I already have a land? The Jwari just seems so low value.
That's
And
fine.
I figured I can have hedge for the hearse because I'm not that behind yet. Like if I could just draw Treasure Cruise, and if I draw Treasure Cruise, like it's not that I'm just
Yeah,
literally
this
dead
is
to
a
a
very
hearse.
playable spot. This is not necessary. I
So
mean, if they have a good follow up here, then we're behind. But
so they do that. I untap. I draw a Sleight of Hand. I draw another Sleight of Hand. I draw an Axe. So I'm pretty sure I axed their like harvest. Okay, I axed the Fable. Wait, I thought it was called. Okay, I don't, the arrow's going everywhere. I was tanking. Well, I was tanking because because they're gonna flip these Fables soon, and the Harvester has more power, but this makes treasure for like Annex. I think I ended up
yeah,
going for the Harvester because because then it meant I could more easily ignore the Kikis, whereas if I didn't, then they could flip the Kikis. And also, I have Annul for the Unholy Annex anyway. So I was like, well, wait a second. If they make a treasure to cast Annex, that's fine for me. So I get back my Demi-Lich and my Phoenix. So actually, it's kind of stabilizing a bit. Since I'm at 5 life, I passed because I was like, I didn't, I was like, if they have removal for my Demi-Lich, I want to block. I think that's reasonable considering I'm at 5 life. And Demi-Lich has a good attack trigger. Like if it gets to attack, it's like really good for me because I get to cast a spell from my graveyard.
mm-hmm.
So it's actually looking kind of almost good for a second here. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm coming back in. They attack. And then I think they torch the tower. They withering torment that. So I was like, that's very aggressive, kind of, but reasonable. So I draw Cruise. So okay, Cruise. Do I cruise into Cruise? What's happening? So I cruise. I think I draw another Cruise. I had to pay mana to leave Phoenix in the graveyard. That's why more mana's tapped. And here I'm pretty sure I probably just Fiery Impulse the Kiki and pass with a null up. They have no cards in hand. It's hard to imagine myself doing anything else. Yep. Like I could pick a lock, but obviously passing with a null seems good value when they're hellbent, and also it lets me cast Fiery Impulse, which is obviously valuable. So it's obvious kind of. I pass, and I'm pretty sure they just draw. Yeah, they draw a Torture Tower off the top, so it's pretty rough. I untap, and then I'm just I draw another Cruise. I do that. It doesn't matter. They're just gonna draw shield. Like I play double picklock basically, have Cruise in hand, but they're gonna draw shield or kill me. So actually, you can kind of see I kind of punted this game. I think on the earlier turns, it could have been. It got into a really awkward position on turn 4 because because of reasons. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, at the end, there, like you said, they drew a Shieldred, but this situation is still like not that bad for us if we just had 9 more life.
Well, they have multiple top decks in a row, right? Well, because like for example here, like I return the Phoenix. Like for example, let's go back. Like they play three Torch Towers in a row, right? So like I return Demi-Lich, and then they go Torch the Tower it. Then I untap. I get back Phoenix. They have no cards in hand. they draw a torch to tower, and they like. Do you see what like how many torches in their graveyard? Like yeah, 3. So they basically from like
This on its face is still a fine spot if we were just not at such a low life total, is what I'm saying.
yeah. I mean, like again, we also make them top deck again because we play pick lock, and we have treasure cruise in hand. And how many cards? And how many phoenixes are exiled? One. Not even that many because they Withering Tormented one. So yeah, I have an Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard. Oh yeah, this was interesting. So I have a Phoenix in the graveyard, but I can't return it. Like it's better to just play 2 pick locks because obviously if I return Phoenix, I'm dead. So yeah, I was actually again I was in a good spot. Well, it depends what they draw. I'm at 1 life, so they draw like for example they could play Annex or something, but they loot, they hit a Shieldred, so I die. So I guess I wasn't in a horrible spot, but like again, if I think that looking back, I kind of the Prismari turn was really bad for me, and if you look at the way I sequenced earlier, I kind of set myself up into that Prismari. Like the turn 4 was really bad for me, and like basically by not returning the Phoenix on turn 3, I made their duress better, and since I made their duress better, like then it was really bad because I could have just had Phoenix in play the whole time. Obviously, they could have torched it, but then they have to spend mana torching it compared to doing other things.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, I don't know if you want to go through the last game or you're going to head out now.
Let's do it. Let's finish the match.
Okay, yeah, I'll just get some water. I'll start in 1 second.
Sure.
1 second.